Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Christopher Ray Patton. We've done a lot of stuff on the 6M, and by stuff, I mean stuff. I mean generous amounts of stuff. I mean boatloads of stuff. We're 60 or 160 some odd episodes into this show since 2020, the year of the pandemic. That's a horror movie all by itself, kids. But yeah, we've done everything on the show, all kinds of stuff, except for horror movies. Want to know why? Because the host isn't into it. The guy whose name is on the show? No. Want to know why? Because I'm a big baby. All right? Because I don't do it. I don't like being scared. The jump scares when you got a theater full of people who like all relieve themselves at the same time because of a jump scare. There's a demon nun or a little wicked kid. Remember the little wicked kids? Everybody that like permeated horror movies. It was always like little demon children running around. Like these things go in phases, man. It was like demon children. Now it's like demon nuns. It's going to be demon ministers. And then we're going to be back to ghosts. I don't know what we're doing. Want to know how I don't know? Because I don't do horror movies. The whole first 30 minutes of this show is going to be me telling you why I don't do horror movies and how they're not for me. Then we might talk about the movie today. I'm kidding. I tease. That's all. They're just jokes. Relax. We're here today to talk about Tucker and Dale versus Evil. This is the Halloween episode, kids. Happy Halloween. Enjoy your stupid horror movies. I'm going to enjoy this, all right? Because I need my movies to be ha-ha when there's blood and gore. I have to have it. Want to know why? Because I got to be able to sleep that night. Call me a baby. Call me a wuss. That's fine. Your words don't hurt me, okay? I'm Teflon at this point. I'm perfectly fine with it. Don't have to be rude about it, by the way. But anyway, it doesn't bother me. I'll still sleep well tonight. Mostly because I can watch this on Halloween and be perfectly happy. I can't wait to talk about this flick. We're going to get into it. Let's do this. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is a 2010 black comedy horror film directed by Eli Craig and written by Craig and Morgan Jorgensen. It stars an assorted cast of characters that we're going to get into here today. This movie is about a pair of well-meaning hillbillies who are mistaken for killers by a group of clueless college students. College kids? There's a reason for that, you'll see. The film premiered at the 2010 Sundance Film Festival and received a limited release in the United States, January 22nd, 2010. The running time is 89 minutes. The budget for this film was $5 million. It made no money, kids. The box office is 5.2 to 5.5. Horrendous. That's the horror movie, is that this movie made no money. Because I'm telling you, this movie is well worth your time. And that is the lowdown on Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So, Chris, we are diving into the Halloween episode. And again, not to rant. It's not my thing. I don't care for it. Halloween, dude, I watched It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. That's my jam. I like to feel good inside. I like to laugh. I'm that guy, okay? So, number one, right out the gate, what do you think about this film overall? And number two, do you do horror movies?
Chris isn't here, Mrs. Torrance.
Oh my God. Nice.
I love horror flicks. And I really, really enjoy this movie. This is one that I kind of slept on for a while because I heard, dude, it's so funny, you have to check it out. And it plays itself even from like the trailer and even the, I don't know what you call it nowadays, the box art kind of plays into like, hey, this is going to be really funny, right? Like if you were looking at a VHS, like scary movie type cover of a film back in the day when you're walking through Blockbuster. Remember when you used to rent videos, Tom? That was a thing.
Oh, of course. Yes.
It kind of had that vibe to it. So I dodged this one for a long time until a friend came home from the bar with me and was going to stay the night because he'd been drinking. And he was like, "Look, dude, you just have to watch it." So he put it on, and I've loved this one ever since. It is one of my go-tos during the spooky season that is Halloween, to break up some of the horror films, because I do watch a lot of spooky films around this time period.
Oh, that makes one of us. Speaking of Blockbuster, listen, you're in Georgia, I'm in North Carolina. We know how things go in a small town. Kids, if you don't know, yawn, okay? That's one. Number two, when Blockbuster came to town, you had to have a credit card. That was unheard of. That was unheard of, okay? There was no such thing. Like, you couldn't get a membership without a credit card. We had like grown rednecks looking each other in the eye going, "What's this crap?" Like it, dude, the nerve of the Blockbuster people. And I'm like, God, are we ever going to move into like the 20th century at the time? But yeah, Blockbuster was a thing. I actually enjoyed renting videos. It was a way of life if you were into movies, man. So for sure.
And you're a little older than me, but I remember it being the same thing here in Georgia, to the point where we had these little outlaw video stores, outlaw indie mud show video stores, like places
Yeah.
like Video Depot plugged against a Tom's Pizza, which is also an outlaw version of a pizza place.
Oh, wow.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess they just assumed that eventually you would bring it back, like a like a trust code. I mean, you have to understand why Blockbuster was, taking credit cards or whatever. I do remember the first time I ever went to a Blockbuster. It's literally the scene from Clerks where he's like, "I work at a crappy video store. I want to go to a good video store so I can rent a good movie." It was like that the first time I ever walked into a video store and saw like everything that they had, both movies and video games. Specifically video games, because the store I normally rented to, like Super Nintendo had came out, and they didn't even have any Super Nintendo games. It was still NES, and I was just out here renting Terminator 2 on VHS and Contra for like the thousandth time.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember there's a whole man. That's a whole other podcast talking about the culture of video stores. And you had like the adult section, and in like those little smaller video stores, there was one. I'm thinking it was in the town I'm in now, but like there wasn't a door. It was like beads hanging up, and it said adults only over the beads, like 70s beads hanging in the doorway. I'm like, ooh, I'm sneak back there and check it out.
We had a spot like that called Fox Video. It was directly next to a Food Lion, so
We
you
had a
know it was
Fox.
good.
Yes.
And they definitely had the beaded area you were talking about. But what maybe I mean a thing that makes me think about horror movies in general in this time of the year is specifically, my mom let me rent kind of whatever, for better or worse, when I was a kid, and I definitely remember like going through the horror section and looking at those titles and like what was the best box art. And best box art does not always equate to a good film, but you were always kind of like excited about it, even if the
Mm-hmm.
movie was really crappy. There's a lot of those out there, like Silent Night, Deadly Night, for instance. That's pretty bad. But yeah, it Dylan Tucker is kind of the opposite effect, where I looked at like the artwork and kind of read the synopsis and was like, I don't know. And then years later, I finally watched it and I was like, this is a great flick.
Oh, it's so good. I can't wait to get into it. There's so much good stuff here, man. I mean, it's not just it doesn't have to necessarily be a Halloween movie. It pokes fun at the whole Friday the 13th and Michael Myers and all those tropes years before, well, not years before, but we're probably around the same time as stand-up comics are really, those movies are becoming fodder for stand-up comedians, as they should. I mean, I had a whole bit at like age 14, like just about the tropes. I mean, that's going back a long time. Like that's how long these movies have been in existence, man. Like, and those tropes are a lot of them are played out in this film, but they're hilarious. And I think you said it best before we actually hit the record button. How was it that you described this movie overall, like the basic theme of this film?
It is just don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, that's the entire premise of the film. It's don't stereotype people because they live in a certain area or look a certain way or talk a certain way. I mean, the movie plays off that very heavily, even to the point where Well, well, I'm jumping right to the end here, so I will calm down, even to the point where you get like a cocky hero that is not necessarily who you think he is.
Very true. Yeah, very true. We've all seen it, and I just had an example jump to mind. In my During my teenage years and into my early 20s, there was a guy in my hometown who rode around a chopper, and he was an older guy, always wore black leather, had like some I had the colors on his vest and on his jacket, head to toe leathers, looked like he lived on that bike, looked like a rough customer, And so of course, as a younger person, your opinion of that guy is, oh, stay away. He could be trouble. He might, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what I thought, but like I found out through people that like had knew him or heard of him that he was actually working like as a missionary to some degree. He was helping out in the community and like, doing outreach for one of the local churches and stuff. And I'm like, wow, I feel like a complete heel. Like, it never fails, man. I'm not extremely judgmental, but anytime I have made snap judgments based on either appearance or what I personally deem to be, when I'm proven wrong, I feel like such a moron and so petty. You know what I mean? It's the worst feeling too,
I think that's what works in the movie so well, is that everyone has made a snap judgment about someone in their life, whether they want to admit it or not, based on how they look or how they act or the kind of music they listen to. Me specifically in high school was music. I was a little bit of a music snob until I realized, hey, there's a lot of good music out there. Maybe don't narrow yourself down to just the Pixies.
Right.
But yeah, I think everyone's kind of made snap decisions like that. And that's what's kind of great about the film is there is this understanding of like, it's hitting you in the face with it a lot, but it is like, hey, don't do that. Like, give people a chance, try to be a good person and, see what happens. Because it doesn't necessarily go well for Tucker and Dale overall, as far as like trying to be good people throughout this film.
No, and like it needs to be said that neither one of these characters intentionally hurts anyone until like the last 15 minutes of the film, like intentionally hurts anybody because it's to save the girl. Up until that point, they didn't do anything wrong at all. It's awesome.
I kind of want like WWE to do like a battle royal or something where the guy doesn't touch anyone.
Oh,
and ends up winning somehow.
Oh, dude, I'm so here for that. That feels like an Orange Cassidy spot, like where guys are charging and he's just ducking and they're going over the top rope on their own. Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, it would be the same exact feel as this. Also, are we getting a Texas Chainsaw Massacre for this Halloween? For AEW here, we bringing back the Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game match. What do you think? No, I'm kidding. We'll save that for Friday.
I was gonna say, yeah. By the way, because I don't do horror, number one. Number two, I've seen parts of that film. No, and never. Okay, never, ever again. I'm not kidding. I can't mentally. I can't handle it, man. Psychologically, I'm a big baby, dude. I can't help it.
Which is kind of funny because we're talking about a movie that takes roots from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 a little bit, as far as like playing off, kind of being a parody of its own genre, as far as like horror and stuff goes. And later we'll get like the scary movies, etc. But this was, this is kind of an homage to some of that stuff. Now, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is still very much a horror film, but it is definitely making fun of itself, much like Ash versus Evil Dead.
See, I can do Ash versus the Evil Dead, believe it or not. I can do that. I mean...
But can you do Evil Dead 2?
No. No, see, it's weird, man. Like... It's a lot like zombies for me. If zombies are well done, I'm out. I can't effing do it. Like 28 Days Later, I'm a grown man when 28 Days Later come out. And 10 minutes into the infected thing, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think I want to finish this. These guys are running Nah. Hoy. It's one thing when the zombies lumber around at a snail's pace.
Not to Dr. Phil you here, but what was
Yeah.
the first horror film that has shaken you to your core in which you cannot watch any other horror flicks? Like, what happened to you, Tom?
I have an immediate answer and I don't even have to think about it. Salem's Lot. Absolutely Salem's Lot.
Wow, that's an unexpected error. That cat just scared you to pieces.
Dude, that kid outside the glass windows with that face in the fog, I'm out. The dude in the rocking chair, nah. Those are two scenes that will never leave me, ever. Like, ever. Yeah, my mom was a big David Soul fan because of Starsky and Hutch, and I grew up with Starsky and Hutch. I'm really dating myself, but that was my jam when I was a little kid. But so, she had to watch this, and I watched it with her because I was a young little idiot and didn't know any better. And man, did I regret it later. So
I can't remember the first horror flick I saw. I can remember the first one that scared me and why it scared me. If you back in the day when you would rent it was the double VHS tapes.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in between the pause of the VHS tapes, there's this long scene in which Pennywise the clown is kind of moving in and out of town, but it's all in black and white photos. So it's like kind of stop motion black and white of him moving through time throughout these photos. And for whatever reason as a kid, that terrified me. And I had watched a bunch of like scary stuff before that, but that one stuck with me. And I think it was just because there's the gap in the movie where it just goes to black and then you have to put the next tape in.
Yeah.
But like, it took me like 2 years to get to the next tape. I never got past the the photography part in that original movie, and that's what switches from them being kids to adults, which they do later in the newer films. Also, great flick, and you made me think of it because Salem's Lot. Are you like a horror book guy? Can you like can you read or listen to horror books, or are you still like, it's not for me?
I love Stephen King, but my favorite King books have been his non-horror books, if I'm being honest. Like, I've read 11/22/63 I don't know how many times, and there's some others that I'm into, and their titles escape me at the moment. So I enjoy him as a writer, but it doesn't necessarily have to be horror. I've read some of his horror stuff, and it doesn't really affect me all that much. Do you know what I mean? But seeing it is such a visceral reaction and connection. That's what gets me.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was asking, because I know a lot of people that can read like horror books fine and they enjoy them, or they can listen to true crime podcasts, etc. But when it comes to something like The Exorcist, like watching it, they're just like, no, I'm out. Whereas me, I get more scared actually like reading a book or like listening to an audible of a scary book than I do like watching it, which is just kind of a weird juxtaposition, I guess.
I'll tell you a movie that terrified me, believe it or not. Again, I was a grown man, not terrified, but scared me. The Blair Witch Project scared me. Like, I came home I was dating this girl at the time. We came home that night. I turned on every light in the house. I'm not kidding. And because, dude, some people get off on the slasher and the blood. That's all. None of it's real. And while the jump scares get to me, I know, but like the Blair Witch stuff, you never see the threat. You hear it. You never see it. And it's, what goes bump in the night, and they're terrified and they know something's out there, but they can't see it, touch it, or whatever. And then that end sequence happens when that dude's turned and facing the corner. Oh, forget it. Like, oh, yeah, dude. Psychologically, that would mess me up too. So
I've tried to watch that movie multiple times because it came out when I was, I don't know, eight or nine, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, it's one that I never really watched, and then trying to watch it as an adult, the whole shaky cam stuff, and this goes for any movie or WWE or any product that decides that they need a bazillion camera cuts and a bunch of shaky camera, it actually makes me feel like camera sick. Like car sick kind of feeling. So I've never actually made it through that one, but it started its own whole horror genre. So there was definitely a market for it.
That's why I quit watching that promotion, by the way. That's
shaky
honestly,
camera cuts.
I'm not kidding, dude. If that stopped today, I would go back to Raw and SmackDown on a regular basis, but I can't. I even with some of the hokey characters and silly storylines and stuff that they tend to do quite a bit, my opinion. Hey, kids, Tom Clark here, and did you know the very podcast you're listening to right now is available on boinkstudios.com. B-O-I-N-K, Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com. It's wrestling. I can get something out of it. There'll be something I can get out of 3 hours that I'll say, man, that was fun. But the camera cuts, not when there's like 37 camera cuts in a run-in spot and there's no match and it lasts like, a minute. Nah, what are we doing?
For the horror fans out there.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're watching Halloween, the original Halloween, and you have the sheet spot where Michael Myers dips his head out from behind the sheet, but there's 48 different shots of him dipping his head out from behind the sheet. That is exactly what we're talking about there. But
that is 100%.
I'm sorry. I derailed us. Let's get back to Dylan Tucker, I guess.
Yeah, because I need to get stuff in my head. You've dredged up terrible memories. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep tonight. I'll have to find a teddy bear or something and hold on to it for dear life. So we'll see what I can do.
You're gonna go sleep in the boys' bed tonight.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. I'm like, son, scoot over. I'm in here. And he'll be the one kicking me out instead of the dad kicking out the kids. It'd be like, Dad, get out of here. Yeah. Yeah, boy. That'll be me. Yeah, dude. This Tucker and Dale is so much fun. And the cast makes this movie work. To me, it's one of those films that's like, if you recast maybe some of the college kids, it would be fine. It would still be a good movie. But if you recast any of the three main characters, I don't know to what extent this movie works. Like, I really don't, because I think these three are cast so perfectly. Tyler Labine is Dale. And, I was thinking about this last night. I know I've seen bits and pieces of Reaper. I really need to dive back into Reaper and give that a shot. I think it only lasted one season, didn't it?
Oh, that is not a show I've ever watched, so cannot say.
So Reaper was, let me see here. It was a Kevin Smith. I think Kevin Smith was the producer. 31 episodes of Reaper. And it was 2007 to 2009. Yeah, it was actually a CW show. But I've been meaning to dive back into that. That's where I first saw this guy. But dude, talk about, why is he so great in this movie, in this role? Because I personally think that he crushes it in this film, dude.
I mean, he just kind of nails that goofy guy that probably wasn't super popular in high school and likes hunting and fishing. And I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I mean, being here from the South, anyone can relate to, it's the big goofy guy, even though there's probably more to that person, but that's kind of how they treat him throughout the film. He's the big goofy, maybe not the smartest guy of all time. And then throughout the film, you get to see, there's other parts of that character that goes back to judging a book by its cover, right? And I mean, he's phenomenal. I don't know that, I'm trying to think if there's anyone I could pull off the top of my head that could do that role like he did it. Maybe the guy. Do you watch? Oh man, God. Well, I'm sleeping on the name right now. The hockey Letterkenny. Maybe the comedian from Letterkenny.
I've seen the first few, and they cracked me up so hard. Like, I really want to go back to that because I think that show's great, actually.
K. Trevor Wilson is the guy. I was like, I could kind of see him doing that role, but I don't know. We're also talking, gosh, when did this movie come out? It came out in 2010. So we're talking about a 7-year gap. I mean, I don't know that I could cast anyone better than how he plays that character. It's kind of perfect, and it's,
so I can't say dim-witted because I don't know that it's dim-witted. It's just, he calls himself slow or whatever, but that, it sets the tone near the first of the movie when when, Tucker's encouraging him to talk to that girl. And he says, be sure you smile and laugh. They got to project confidence, show her. So Dale walks up with he's got a scythe in his hand, dude. How do you not know that might, and then he asks him a question. He just starts that nervous giggling like a maniac.
He's like, how are y'all?
Yeah.
He hits him with the Vince Vaughn laugh.
Oh, he does. Oh,
great.
That's a good call. Yeah.
It's great. And dim-witted is not where I would go. It's more just like, very shy, probably, like I said, was probably not the most popular kid in school or whatever. He has that vibe. It's kind of like, he's our big Peter Parker as a character in this film.
I'll take that. Dude, if you look at his film credits, he started in 1999. He has worked he has credits for every year except 2007 and 2022-23. And he has credits for every year. His television credits go back to 91. My God, his list of TV credits are huge. Very cool. He also does the voice of Hunk in that new Voltron series, which I really thoroughly enjoyed, by the way, on Netflix.
I need to check that out because I've heard good things about it, but I have not seen it yet. You're right. He has been in a ton of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was stoner #1 in the X-Files for 3 episodes. So that must be the one where they go to Area 51. You remember that episode?
Dude, I love the X-Files.
So do I. Gonna have to go back and check that out. I just like anyone getting the title of stoner #1. It's like
that's so good
as a credit. No, but it looks like he's been in a ton of stuff, like you said.
There's a lot.
I
of
didn't
stuff
even know that they made a Super Troopers 2.
I think I knew that. Yeah, I don't think I've seen it though. The first one's really good,
but I do remember him on It's Always Sunny. He was very funny there as well. So,
There was something called Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which only ran for 7 episodes, which seems like a crime because the title suggests that would have been great.
Oh, he's in New Amsterdam. That's a pretty fun show.
Yeah.
Now that I said that, they'll cancel it because of me being on the last show where they canceled the last thing that we talked about. So
you're the Hex. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. He's so good here. As all this work that you see, kids, if you look him up, is very, very impressive. But like, I want him to do more. Like, I want to see this guy and, not necessarily sell out or anything crazy, but like, I want to see him more. Like, I don't know to what degree, but man, God, he's so good, dude. He's so funny. He's got a very, very likable face. I mean, he can do so much. Oh my God. And like, him and Alan Tudyk as Tucker, dude, the great Alan Tudyk. I cannot sing Alan Tudyk's praises enough. He's so effing great. We talked about him here on the pod before, kids. The Doom Patrol episode, go check it out. We talked about him numerous times. We did Knocked Up. He was in that. Great little bit in Knocked Up. Very funny. Alan Tudyk, man, and Tyler Labine have such great chemistry in this movie, Chris. It is nuts how great these two guys are together.
I have to agree with that 100%, man. Like all of the jokes are lined up and set down so perfectly between those two. It's just a natural chemistry, and that's kind of hard to get across on the screen. And I think they like actually nail it. And he's just really, really, really funny in his role. And I don't want to go too into it because he's got some of the best lines in the entire movie. To me, he actually kind of makes. I mean. Tyler Labine is great as well, and he's kind of your main character, but Alan is just hilarious, and he just has so many bad circumstances, and his delivery on all of his punchlines is just so perfect that it really carries this flick. It's crazy to me this movie's only 89 minutes long.
I know. Yeah. It doesn't feel like it's going by quick, but do talk about those moments like when they're both laying on the floor and Dale tells him that he doesn't like fishing, And he goes, I'm sorry to hurt your feelings. And he just looks at him and he's like, it was kind of hurtful. The way he does his head, like, it's so good.
It's just there's just so much of that. Like when they're actually in the fishing boat, when the college kids first show up, there's just so many great lines back and forth. I mean, I guess we could start there, right? So
Yeah.
they go out into the wilderness because Alan Tudyk's character, which is Tucker, right?
Yep. Yep.
He's buying a little piece of heaven for himself,
Their
as a
vacation
Southerner
home.
does his vacation home, which is just a ran down shack next to a lake because all he wants to do is get away and fish. That's literally all he's wanting to do on this trip. Maybe instill some confidence in Dale. That's his whole gimmick. And these college kids show up and they're camping nearby and they decide to go for a swim in the lake, as one does in a horror film.
Of course.
And one of their friends starts drowning. And Dale and Tucker are fishing, and they pull her out of the lake to save her. And all the college kids immediately associate them with the Memorial Day Massacre,
Of course,
which is also just hilarious in itself. And the shenanigans begin from there.
And in Dale's words later on, he's like, to be fair, I was 6 years old when that happened. That had nothing to do with me.
It's really funny he drops that line because it comes back later on as far
as
what does happen in the film.
And I mean, there's something up when they walk into that cabin, and it's out of a horror movie, and they are like awestruck at how great it is. And like, they was like, oh, this guy must have been a real news junkie. There's bones hanging up, and the clippings are like lone survivor, teen slain, attacks escalate, killing spree. And then he says, wait a minute, Chubby's Chili Chalk Depot, buy 3, get 2 free, no expiration date.
Yeah, I love how blissful and happy they are just to be on vacation from what you're assuming is like a factory job or something.
Yes.
And it carries into their characters. They're just so happy to be there. They know a lot of work is going to have to be done to make this their forever vacation home.
I cannot believe I'm staying in my vacation home right now. Dreams really do come true. And he's getting all emotional about it.
It's so good.
Oh, man. So good. And then, of course, he leans on that beam, right? And that's the first. Well, there's the first, not the first thing, but that's definitely going to kill somebody at some point. So,
where the beam shifts, yeah.
Yeah, jeez. Yeah, and him running through the woods with that chainsaw after going through the log where the bee's nest is. And the kid's running from him, and he's running parallel. And he looks over with this confused look on his face, like, why is this kid running in the woods?
It's so good. And if for those out there that haven't seen it, if you're Texas Chainsaw Massacre fans, he basically gets stung by a bunch of bees, does the Leatherface dance, and then just runs as fast as he can with a chainsaw.
Oh.
I guess we should talk about the college kids. So their friend gets kidnapped, and
yes. Well, they think she's been kidnapped.
They think that she has been kidnapped. And all of the guys in this party decide they're all going to be the hero of this horror film that is not actually a horror film. And that's how all of the hilarity ensues, is because they're literally just like gosh, what is the guy's name now? I'm forgetting the.
So Chad is the
Chad.
Yeah, Jesse Moss is Chad. Yeah.
Yeah, so Chad's over here throwing axes, like talking about how they have to go take these killers down. And the rest of them are like sharpening nails and like getting ready for this war that's not a war.
Oh, it's so good.
It's just, and it's so great because it's in most like slasher flicks, you have like, one guy that is going to be or try to be the hero. He normally dies, right? But he's going to at least try to be the hero. This one, every guy in the film is trying to be the hero. Every guy. And Todd is specifically hilarious because he has asthma. So like throw an axe and then sit down and have to use his inhaler.
Oh my god. And that comes into play as well at the end of the movie because of the chamomile tea, which is like I defeated the crazy killer with chamomile tea. Like that's how I got him. Yeah, and the kidnapped friend we're alluding to, kids, is Katrina Bowden as Allison. So she is, for lack of a better term, crazy gorgeous, but she's so great here because she's sweet, she's very kind, she doesn't judge anyone, like her friends are. Like she's not really judging anybody at all. And like if she did, she learns very quickly that Dale and Tucker are not who she maybe thought they were. But she gets bonked in the head like twice in this movie. How does she not have like long lasting ramifications from these head injuries,
That is true. Um, Honestly, when I think of her, I only think of this movie. I'm sure that she's done a lot more, but she's just perfect for this flick, and she's playing the caring. I'm trying to think of the good word, almost like stock. Like they think she has Stockholm syndrome, so
Yes.
she's kind of playing that, but like it's just her honest self of being a really nice person, which is kind of weird. But yeah, she is definitely the scream queen, so to speak, of this film. As far
Yeah.
as main female characters go in a horror
Her
film.
movie credits are not exactly, these aren't exactly Oscar winning productions, kids. There's Piranha 3DD in here. There's Scary Movie 5. There's a bunch of movies I've never heard of. Nurse 3D, which is an American erotic horror thriller film. Okay. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here that kind of sounds a little sus. But then her television credits, not a bad list of television credits. So, yeah, she's still working, I suppose. But I'm with you. If I see a picture of her, I'm thinking about this movie for sure.
Yeah. Well, now I want to know what Nurse 3 did, whatever that. No, I'm kidding. I do find it great that she is in Piranha's 3DD and
Jeez.
also in Great White. She's been in two creature horror flicks, so that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Yeah. I don't, typecast perhaps. Maybe we're talking. I mean, look, if it pays the bills and she's happy, who am I to judge? See,
Bro,
talk about judging somebody, right?
get paid. You've heard me talk about Hurricane Hilms before.
Yes.
If you're really good at getting paid that way, get paid, dude. Take
Get
money where you can
paid.
take it.
Get your money.
Also,
Yeah.
everyone can go back and watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is a huge cult hit, and you got that under your belt. So,
Oh man, no one can take that away from you. Yeah, God, man. As I said earlier, dude, if you change any one of the three main cast members, like I think you could change, and let's be honest, Jesse Moss does a bang up job as Chad. No disrespect to Jesse Moss. If you replaced him, I don't know that you miss a beat, but I think you do miss a beat if you replace Dale, Tucker, or Allison. Honestly, I think so.
I think there's a lot of people that could fit, but that's the whole idea of the character. So maybe he played it perfectly.
Ah, that's a
It's
good
kind of one of
call.
those
Yeah.
weird characters where he's supposed to be just a very generic frat boy white dude. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and he kind of nails that role. Um, Now, if I was fantasy casting it, it'd be really funny to see Casey Affleck in that role.
Oh, not bad. Yeah. Dude, I'm just going through moments here when Dale brings her the pancakes and she starts screaming and crying, "No, please." He goes, "Oh, it's the pancakes. You hate pancakes. I'm gonna make you something else." Good. He's like, "You should have asked her. She likes pancakes, you big stupid idiot." And he slams the door. Oh my god.
And there are some great. I don't even know if you can really call them kill scenes in this flick, but let's call them accidents, I guess.
The way these kids die is appalling and funny at the same time.
One you already talked about, which is running through the woods, and the guy's chasing after him. He was originally
Yes.
going to stab him. He like sneaks up, and then the hornets or whatever happens. And he's running with the chainsaw. This kid gets impaled on a tree limb. And then the second one is the wood chipper. Is the second one?
Oh God, it's gruesome.
Where the guy the guy runs to go tackle him as he's chunking wood into a wood chipper, just completely misses because he turns to go pick up another log.
He leaves his feet like he's Superman flying through the air and goes directly into this wood chipper.
and, and Tucker's like trying to pull him out.
Dude, when the thing shuts off, Tucker goes, "Are you all right?" like what?
And then,
oh my God.
the podunk sheriff shows up and they're just holding just the legs to the waist. They're like, don't say anything.
And it's funny because the sheriff doesn't automatically place them under arrest, like, because he's been down this road before, and we don't know that till later. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you. You know, it's a comedy. It's not real. None of this really happened, kids. Relax. But like, as a cop, you would think, why wouldn't his first course of action not be to cuff these two guys? Well, because he's curious. Maybe he doesn't think they necessarily did anything because to him, there's bad aura up here. There's bad juju. You know what I mean? So like that kind of jumps out at you if you don't know what's going on. Cause like, why is he just going to arrest these two guys right off the bat? Which he doesn't do. And man, the beam in the house comes back because man, when it's like these two guys have seen so much, and then the sheriff like, oh no, not him too, you know? And doesn't Tucker say something like, oh, you might be all right, walk it off, that's okay, you know? Oh my God.
One of my favorite scenes is after the bee sting. I know this is going back a little bit. When he goes into the house and he just like takes his key and basically shotguns a beer to pour it on his bee wounds. I was like,
oh,
that is definitely something we would have done in Hall County, Georgia. Home of AJ style. So that's definitely, you got a cut? Let's pour some vodka on it and see. That is hilarious. Oh, and it just makes me laugh.
And Dale's like,
see it.
Because he's upset at Dale. He thought if Dale had been out there, maybe he could have, because he was in there talking to her. And Dale's like, how about I pull those stingers out? What was it he says? He pulls the stingers out and they'll do something after that. And he's like, I think I'd like that. He's all, I love how they talk to each other. It's so good. It's like two women or something, man.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely playing off of it like that they're in a like a bromance for sure, like a heterosexual relationship, and it's really funny of how sweet they are to one another. But also,
they really are.
But Tucker's also just like, go for the girl towards the end of this movie. It is very much the opposite of Jersey Girl.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. When she wakes up and Dale's talking to her and she's like, where are my friends? Like, well, they just ran off. She goes, they just left. And goes, yeah, well, don't be mad at them. Some people just aren't good in a crisis. He still doesn't understand. He still doesn't get it,
Neither of them get it. Like after like the third college kid dies, like Tucker's like, I swear, these college kids have got a suicide pact. They just all came up into the woods and killed themselves.
And Dale's like, that makes a lot of sense. Like it really. Oh my God.
I mean, in the way that they're dying, it actually does make a lot of sense.
It does. Oh, yeah, just diving like, and I know we're bouncing here, kids. I apologize, but like back to the first death, right? Like when he's impaled and he sees that bee. And then he knows, wait a minute, the guy was running from bees. He wasn't after me. I think he put two and two together in the very end,
Yeah, they try to do that a couple times with kills. It's pretty funny. I can't remember. Don't they play a song when the guy dives into the wood the wood chipper. I could be your hero, baby. If not, they should go back and edit that in. That'd be.
Oh, I don't know why I don't remember that, but they should definitely put. Oh, yeah. Jeez. Yeah, the kill count in this movie is pretty high. I mean, look, kids, by the way, we've spoiled the whole thing. I should maybe preface the show here with that. Everybody dies except for Dale, Tucker, Allison, and that's it. So, yeah, spoiler. So,
well, let's get into the crazy. I mean, we're already here, I guess, at this point. Let's get into Jesse Moss, right? So he is the leader of these college kids. He is the alpha male, so to speak, out here throwing his hatchet such in the wilderness.
By the way, we had to mention Alan Tudyk constantly calling them college kids and going, college kids, when they're going through the woods. He doesn't know what else to say.
Come back, college kids.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Chad.
So throughout the beginning of this flick, when they first enter their vacation home,
yeah,
all of these stories tie back to both this sheriff, played by Philip Granger, who I thought did a really good job as well.
Yes.
And the fact that a bunch of kids went up to here on Memorial Day, got murdered, and then a woman got raped, and Chad is the offspring of that woman, which makes him a killer because horror flicks.
Right. But we don't know that bit. What a great twist in the end. You know what I mean? To say that, wait a minute, look at the picture, and it's basically him in an Amish beard or something.
Yes, it's like his dad with an... that's also great in itself is the Amish went up here into the woods.
Yes.
To take down
like you're
college.
You're part hillbilly. Yeah.
And then you get the full. Now you get into more of like the basic slasher flick with Dale and Tucker and Allison going against Chad, who is definitely more of like the Michael Myers type character towards the end of the flick. But they do a great job of building it up to make you hate this guy, which he's pretty easily hateable in general.
It's like it's the old adage of what are people truly capable of if they're put in a bad situation. Like this person, what you see is what this person really is, because had he never been put in this bad situation, he still had those tendencies. So we see what it ended up as, being in the end. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
When you think about when I think about Dell and Tucker, I immediately think of like the Wet Bandits from Home Alone.
Well done. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Where like Alan is the he is not the Pesci of the Wet Bandits. Yeah. Right. He's definitely the one that takes the most abuse. Yeah, he's definitely Marv in this scenario. Yeah. Because by the end of this movie, this poor guy is really marred up of everything that has happened to him. And it's all like Home Alone type slapstick comedy. And I love it so much. As a huge fan of Home Alone, I get a big appreciation. A lot of the kills are like that too. And I think that's why I like it so much, honestly. But I always associate those two things together, which is weird because when you're like, with your nieces watching Home Alone, you're like, oh, I should go home and watch Dylan Tucker versus Evil later. Yeah.
Well, dude, it's true. Like, he does take the brunt of it. And like, of the two, would you have ever considered Alan Tudyk to not be the straight man? Like, you would think that he would be the straight man and Tyler Labine would be the one taking all the pratfalls, but that's not happening here. It's kind of backwards.
It's great. His delivery on, if anything, watch even if you're not into horror films or you don't like comedy, you don't like to laugh, you should watch it for his delivery. If you're an actor out there,
yes,
he's really great.
Alan Tudyk is the best. I mean, he's a classically trained actor as well, so I mean, he's capable of doing, highly refined acting, which he's done. But like, this is, my God, his range is crazy good, but he's got a knack for comedy. I think he would probably, and what is it, sci-fi show where he's an alien? I forget the name of it now. Have you seen that, by the way?
I'm trying to think of the name of it.
It is so freaking good, man. I am such a fan of it. He's great, man. Like that show is excellent, by the way. Resident Alien.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
had seen that. Didn't that recently get canceled?
Oh, I think you're right. That sucks because it was left like you're kind of hanging the way it leaves. Yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That has nothing to do with his acting. That's just TV right now.
Well, hold on. Let's run that back. The series has been renewed for a third season.
Oh, nice! Shout out to
Nice.
Sci-Fi for pulling the trigger on that. Then.
Yes, my God. Quit canceling stuff, networks. Listen, just stop having to make so much money, okay? My God. Don't make that much money and keep great shows around. I don't know.
Or if your stars only put power out.
Right.
Just power.
I mean, my advice is very highly counterproductive, but I just like what I like.
I like Power and I love 50 Cent, but like, yo, did we have to cancel Heal? I'm still mad about this from last time I was on this show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that. If we're looking at death count, if we're winding all the way back, the first death we see is a reporter who's bludgeoned with a pipe. That happens in the very beginning. Then we see a camera operator who's bludgeoned with a pipe. We see the kids out there because he's telling the story. The 80s guy that takes a saw blade to the face, which is hooey. And then you see the girl get stabbed in the neck with the machete. And then we get to the present time. And Mitch is the kid that's impaled on the tree branch. And Todd is, oh, that's right. The second death was when they were digging the hole. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Todd impales himself on the spear because they're like, look, they've got her doing work. They got her digging her own grave. Because he sees his friends. He's like, hey, your friends are, hey, kids. And he turns and smacks her in the head with the shovel. Oh, my God. Man. And that kid impales himself and he's falling right past Dale, which is so great. And then the wood chipper happens.
Yeah. Did you appreciate the fact that they're getting chased in a truck and they just end up at a sawmill?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Oh. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I was like I was telling you before the show, I kind of felt like this episode was going to go like this because it's something you have to see for those out there that haven't seen it. We are not doing it enough justice. Yeah. It is great. It's an hour 19 minutes or hour 29 minutes of your time probably. Like, come on. I know you've watched worse reality TV out there, world.
Yeah, it's so, my God, it's so great. And then you've got, all right, so wood chipper, and then you have Sheriff Gurr, Gurr, by the way, Gurr. I don't know. So Sheriff Gurr gets a bunch of nails to the head, and then Chuck accidentally shoots himself in the face. Like,
it's one of the best things. Like, and Dale's like, the safety's on, and then he immediately looks at the gun to take the safety off. And you get the Quentin Tarantino Pulp Fiction shot of like Leon just blew his own head off.
Yes,
basically. Or I just shot Leon in the head, or whatever. That famous scene, it is like shot kind of the same way. It's hilarious.
Oh my God! And that kid shoots himself in the face, like. And then when he tells him the safety's on, like Tucker looks at him like, what are you thinking? Because the kid, he's like, F you, mother, oh, you got to take the safety off. It's on the side there. And then, the kid and you're like, he's going to shoot himself, isn't he? And he does, of course, which is great. He says, you got to start being more careful. Oh, my God.
It's such a good delivery between those two that it really carries the movie. There is like some theories out there that all of the hatred that Tyler Labine character has suffered is like a karma type thing of what he really wishes that he could do to the outside world, and it's just happening to them without him doing anything.
Oh, interesting.
But I think that's looking way too much into the plot of a fiercely comedy film. But I did read that today. Tom.
Comedy horror movie, yeah. So the only three we had left from the college kids, not counting Chad, was Jason. He was lit on fire and burned to death. Chloe, who is incinerated in the cabin explosion.
Okay, we cannot skip over Hal Jason. Jason accidentally sets himself on
Oh
fire,
God.
and then Chloe, is it Chloe, right?
Yes.
She tries to put him out with moonshine.
Yes. He's like, wait, don't use that.
Dale and Tucker had brought with them to drink and fish, which causes a Michael Bay level of explosion.
Yes. Man, I really wanted, like, Chloe was the one that doused him, right? Wasn't she the blonde that doused him? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I really wanted
I
Chloe to make it. She was just so airheaded. I'm like, please don't kill her. She's too fun, you know?
So Chloe is the character that's also just running around the woods.
Yes.
In pumps, like just not meant for camping at all. Like if you dropped her out of like High School Musical or like Mean Girls and just threw her in the woods, that's
she never takes them off, I don't think.
No, she's just out there running in them. She's like Selena Vega out here hitting hurricane ranas in her pumps.
How about like Allison gets them to sit down to have tea together? Like what?
To sort out their differences.
To sort out their differences. Oh my God. It's so good.
Which is like, it's great because at this point, you're almost convinced that Allison does have Stockholm Syndrome from a situation that she's not kidnapped in.
Yes.
But it's just her character. And she plays it really, really well. I'm surprised that she has not been in more, honestly. I thought she was really good here.
I totally agree because her character was majoring in psychology, right? Isn't that why she was doing this?
Right, because originally she does think that she's like been kidnapped.
Yeah, that's true.
And then easily figures out that all my friends are killing themselves.
The moment that like never happened that I think would have thrown a wrench into Allison and Dale, at least short term until she forgave him, was that they were responsible for her getting hit in the head twice. Like, it was an accident, but had they not been watching her and she heard them, she wouldn't have been scared and slipped and fell and hit her head on the way down. And then, of course, Dale hits her in the head with the shovel. So she never found out, did she, of either instance of it being their fault, actually?
I mean, like, they did save her life.
Well, yeah, but...
Twice, technically, since we get later on, we get the weird killer that was bringing all his friends to the woods to murder them.
It does make you think if none of this had happened, if they hadn't seen her and she hadn't fell in, would all this have happened anyway? Because Chad was so nuts anyhow with a bloodlust we didn't know about that if they'd stumbled upon Tucker and Dale, he still would have done something to him.
Or they just never would have saw each other and all these kids die in the woods. And Dale and Tucker's like, man, we were just right down there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right down the... It's just I think that's what makes it great. It's like just a bunch of happenstance, coincidences. And like I said earlier, it's just don't judge a book by its cover. And you finally get to see that at the end with Tucker and Dale kind of taking the movie by the reins and becoming your unfortunate, your surprising heroes, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we said before, man, like don't judge a book by its cover. Cause like that scene with him and her in the cabin and she's like, we don't want to escalate things. And she says, they must've thought you were trying to harm me. He says, oh, and why would they think that? Because he knows, but he wants her to say it. He's not so dumb after all. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
there's a lot of heart to this movie, kids. I mean, we make it sound like a laugh, right? And it freaking is. But man, there's a lot of heart to it. And of course, Chad's not found. Remember that?
Yes, and they set it up for a sequel. And originally, when they asked the director about this, they wanted to do a sequel titled Tucker and Dale Go to Yale, which would make sense with his character as being also just college kids, right? And it was described as like it was going to be like Good Will Hunting meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which would have been really funny because I would only assume that Dale would be like Will in Good Will Hunting.
Oh my God, that would have been funny. Yeah. Well, supposedly it looks like it's sequel's not probably not happening. Like the last thing I could find on it was Boston Comic Con 2017. Alec Tudyk said that a script had been written, but it was disappointing and said they were unlikely to be moving forward. That's the last thing I found. So we'll see. I don't know. Dude, I'm intrigued by a sequel, but it would have to be the same trio. It would have to be the same director. It would have to be, the screenplay, again, Eli Craig, Morgan Jurgensen. Dude, I think you would have to have everybody back on board. I think if you hand this to somebody else, I don't know if it works. I mean, and plus, not every movie needs a sequel, Chris. You know what I mean? Not every film needs a part 2.
I agree with that. I think with a comedy, it's fine, though, right? I mean, obviously, we don't need 15 of them looking at you, Scary Movie, but like with a comedy, it's supposed to be fun. You drop it during Halloween. If it's well written, I don't have as much of a problem with it. Like, we're not going to lose anything in the storyline of Dale and Tucker, right? If they decide to drop them in a random situation. But yes, normally I tend to agree with you. Not everything needs a sequel, especially in the horror world. I just think this is like kind of it's a very well done comedy that breaks up the monotony of what most people watch, especially, well, me included, watching the horror season. This is one you can throw on to kind of break up your horror flicks or whatever and have a good laugh and a good time while it's still being spooky season.
Yeah. Well, as we said at the beginning of this episode, kids, I'm here for this because me and the scares don't get along too well. Yeah, I don't care for that at all. So, yeah, well, look, if I'm being honest, it'd be interesting to see Tucker and Dale end up in another situation. But see, that to me, it's like Home Alone 2. What's the chances? First of all, what's the chances of Home Alone 1 ever happening? But what's the chances it happens again? That, wait a minute, Kevin, and where's the kid? Like, what's the chance that Tucker Dale again end up in a situation? You see what I'm saying? Like, at that point, it's like, come on. Now we're just going to repeat the same jokes.
See, it never bothered me because the idea is so absurd in general. What is the chances of it ever happening to begin with, right? So if it happens a second time, you're like, okay, I already accepted it the first time, especially when it comes to the world of horror. Like, how many times has Michael Myers been killed in quotations?
Well, that's fair. Yeah. And like you said, they set it up for a sequel that we may never get. But what's great is like, this movie isn't 30 years old. We don't have to now focus on their kids. This can still be the cast. You know what I mean? That seems to be the thing to do, man. Well, everyone's 80 now, but let's have their kids. Like, do we need to, though?
There has to be a ton of like fan-made sequels out there, and I kind of want to go do a deep dive on that to see what those are like, because I'm sure there's some good stuff out there.
That'd be interesting.
Because this is, I mean, it's a great cult film. Like I said, I slept on it for like 2 or 3 years after it came out just because of the box art and like how it was pitched. I was like, I don't think it's going to be too funny, and I don't really want to sit through it. And then I was glad that I was not forced, but convinced to sit through it. It is one of my, during beginning of October, then to October, it's one that always makes it into the rotation to break up, the rest of the scares.
The demon kids and the evil nuns, right? Heck with that.
I steer clear of the evil nuns. I don't know. I don't I feel like out of all the stuff I watch, that's the one that would make God the most angry. I don't need that kind of darkness brought down upon my house, Tom.
God's up there like, oh, look, I want to look past that fornication stuff and saw blades to the head, but look, that nun, come on, man. Come on.
Come on.
This ain't cool, bro. Come on. I want my God to sound very casual and like a homeboy. That's what I want him to sound like. Or her. I'm not going to be, what am I going to do? Be gender biased here? I'm not,
Did you ever hear the Scott Mosier, Kevin Smith boxing match between Satan and Jesus?
This sounds familiar, but I don't know if I have.
Okay, Satan knows Bruce Lee karate, and Jesus only knows old timey boxing. But he's really good at it.
Oh.
I would say go listen to that, but you would have to Patreon that now because they locked all that stuff behind a paywall, which is unfortunate.
So like the old time picture, the guys with their arms extended up and outward, like
Yes.
back when they were called pugilists. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Uh,
Oh man. Yeah. Now I got the image of Buddy Christ on the dashboard. I've got that image in my head now.
yes.
I need that for my car. Oh, dude, can you imagine how that would get over in North Carolina? Now I have to have one. So
Heel Tom just dressed like Jimmy Hart getting out of his car with a megaphone.
I'm saying. I'm saying. All right. So in the end, this movie could or could not have a sequel, and I guess I'll be open-minded and not judge it too harshly. No pun intended. But I don't know. Some movies are just great the way they are, and plus, I don't know if it didn't land. And that's the thing I've said on this show multiple times, dude. If I've said it once, if something doesn't land, you still got the other one. Like, don't cry about it. I'm not going to watch Transformers movies because Michael Bay can, I got no use for Michael Bay. I'm trying to keep it clean. But, like, we know that guy's like, he's a carny if I've ever seen one, right? So, but it's okay. I still have the animated series and I got the comics. I'm good. I don't need movies. That's fine. I'm not, you know what I mean? So, like, if they do a part 2 here and butcher it, again, no pun intended, it's okay. I've got the original and I don't need a sequel. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it either way.
I mean, I don't necessarily care if they make a sequel or not, but if they did make a sequel, I would go see it with an open mind because, for all the terrible sequels out there, there is like Clerks 2, Terminator 2. Maybe it'd be really good, especially as a cult film. Maybe they would put the love and effort that would need to be done to make that good. So I would definitely check it out. I mean, granted, it probably would be terrible years later. But you know what? I'm willing to give it a risk 13 years later to see what Dale and Tucker are up to. It'd be hilarious if it was just them doing a fishing show from their vacation home. That's what I would do.
I felt so bad for Tucker because that thing burned down. It was like, and they get in the truck and he's like, it's the only thing I got left. Talking about the truck. Man, poor guy. So yeah, well, kids, in the end, this is a cult favorite. It's got 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty good. And as far as awards go, no Oscars happening here, but it did win a couple of Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. So
One South by Southwest.
that's something.
Or yeah, Eli Craig, South by Southwest as a director, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's how you know it's good for people that just rely on South by Southwest indie films to know what's good next year.
Oh, dude, I couldn't even do Fangoria as a kid. The magazine? No, I couldn't even look at it. I'm not, dude. Yes, dude. I had a buddy that collected Fangoria, and like he was kind of obsessed with it, and he also collected the heavy metal magazines, which I still don't know how they got away with selling heavy metal on a newsstand with 9-year-old kids standing there, but okay.
I mean, the same way they got away with Playboy and Hustler being there. They just put like a white plastic thing against it.
Yes. Making you feel all creepy because, the form of a naked woman should be, let's vilify people who like to look at a naked person because they're going to hell, I suppose.
Yeah, you could just easily not sell it at your store. When it gets really weird, though, is when that person buys said magazine at the airport and then decides to sit next to you on a plane and read, which has happened.
Oh, wow.
To me, but...
Well, that you might can get away with that. I'm only buying it for the article stuff, but not with Hustler. That doesn't work with Hustler or any number of other porn mags that I don't know the name of that, may or may not be a thing. So, yeah.
There is like one Playboy interview that always sticks in my head, Tom, and I think you'll get a kick out of this. They were asking John Mayer how he felt about other masculine males making fun of his songs. And he says, it really hurts my feelings. And then I go home and I sit at my desk and I just cry into stacks of money. I thought that was a great response.
That's
It's
great.
stuck in my head for forever since I was a teen till now.
John Mayer is a great player. And what's cool is that all these years later, he's finally getting props, because you'll see random clips of him online shredding on a stage, and other guitarists are just shaking their heads, smiling when they're looking at him like, good Lord, the guy is so good, man. It's crazy.
It's a great guitar player. I find him very boring.
I'm not a huge fan of his, like, here's my album. And he's got that face that just makes you want to punch him. I don't know why. Probably a great guy. But, like, man, can he play, dude. You know?
It has a lot to do with, like, just the Eric Clapton style blues in general is just not really my thing. But
I see. That's fair.
They're both really great guitar players.
Eric Clapton's not my thing anymore for a lot of other reasons. So, yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. We'll have to have a separate podcast about Clapton where I can just talk about how great Duane Allman is.
Hey, I love Duane Allman. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
But slow
like
hand, not so much.
You like Layla and other assorted love songs? Me too. we just end the show there.
Hey, I'm just saying. Yeah, this would become a whole other podcast. So, hey, look, kids, it is the 6M. Music's one of them. I'm just saying we're within the boundaries. It's fine. Everybody relax. Well, there you have it, kids. There is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Like we've said for the past hour and some change, watch this effing movie. And by the way, maybe in the beginning we should have told you, watch it if you haven't, and then come listen to this, because we blew the whole thing for you. But look, you'll still love it. I promise you. Because as we said, we probably didn't do it justice. Chris, let's take this home, my friend. Give me your last word on Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Great film. Definitely one to throw on if you're going to have a small Halloween get-together and want to break up between horror films. Maybe you got a friend that's not super into horror films and you need something to watch and you're super into them. It's a really fun watch. Outside of this movie, I'd probably throw, like I said, like maybe the first Scary Movie and something like Gremlins. If you're super into horror and they're not, those would be some of my recommendations.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. Yeah, to bring all this back home and put a button on it, I'm still not going to do horror. I don't care what anybody says. Have your horror and your demon nuns and your wicked children, and I'll be perfect. By the way, Children of the Corn terrified me as a child. I forgot that one. Terrified me. Christine, not so much, but Children of the Corn, oh my God.
The unkillable car did not scare you, but the fact that you could just avoid Indiana in general, terrifying.
Oh my God.
Malachi! He who walks behind the rose.
Yeah, look, I've been known to drive by cornfields before, and the impact of that book / movie / pun intended, the impact of both those things, that's saying something. Stephen King should be set for life because people can't drive by a cornfield. They're going, well, you're in the corn, get it? Like,
My grandpa is a hard Southern man. The first time he watched part of Children of the Corn with me, he was like, that would never happen here. Those kids just get their butts whipped. So
he's like, I ain't too much worried about it. Yeah, it'll be fine. That's great. That's great. See, this stuff lends itself to comedy. Just saying. Well, there you have it, kids. There's the flick. Thanks as always for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a happy Halloween out there, kids. And don't look now, but Tom Clark 6M podcast is going to deliver Christmas too. My favorite time of year is coming. I can't wait. I'm a sucker for it, and it's my jam. Much better vibes than this scary, bloody stuff. So you guys can have that and enjoy it. Watch it all year long, all the live long day. Fine with me, but I'm not doing it, and you can't make me. So come back for the Christmas episode. You'll love it, I promise. But in the meantime, that is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.